So, how's everybody doing?
We're in Thailand.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah, what's interesting?
Let's see the painful, the feeling, up and down, rise and cease. And sometimes the pain, a different kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every moment different, some strong, some less, up and down. And finally I found like a symphony, You see symphony?
Ah, yeah.
A different instrument.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, become this instrument, a piano, then this violin, so various instruments. And then going all the piece, Oh, very good. Then come again.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
It is. So pain isn't one solid, concrete thing, is it?
Another, yeah.
Yeah.
Like music instrument, yeah.
Yeah. Completely changing all the time. Yeah, like a symphony. What are other people noticing and seeing?
I had a question about we're just we're kind of like seeing like all parts of what's composed of reality or what we think of ourselves, right? Like this is the body, and then there's the feelings of it, and this is what we consider the mind, and then there's all these factors. But I haven't seen addressed yet like the dreams, like the subtle energy bodies. Like all the energies that come, chakras, like the nadis.
Yeah, that's not involved in this practice.
So those are not classified in none of this?
No, because chakras, nadis, these kinds of things, you get into that in Tantra practice. But in Sutrayana practice, there's no mention of them.
Okay. And then what about like the 5 energies? Those neither?
You mean of the 5 elements?
Of the 5 Buddha families? Kind of like the...
Yeah, no, that's all Tantra.
That's not allowed?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So it's like, where are those?
No, they're in another type of practice. Yeah.
Because in front of it there's a contact, right?
Yeah.
The contact has 3 conditions, right? 3 elements. There's a sense power, an object, and consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Right, 3. So
that's for sense perception.
Huh?
That's for sense
Sense
perception.
But this feeling is every moment, right? Very fast. Every moment different. So every moment they have every moment different. Those 3.
Yeah. Well, when we look, because nothing remains the same in the next moment. Yeah. It isn't that something comes into being, then it remains unchanging for a while, and then it goes out of existence. It's not like that. On the level of subtle impermanence, at the moment something is arising, it is also passing away. Yeah. And so, what we're having is a stream of things, and we can see, to even see something, for a period of time, our eyes need to focus for a period of time. So there needs to be, many moments of something. Yeah. Is that making some sense to you?
It's just not get quite clear, because those contacts have these 3 elements, 3 conditions.
Right. Right.
So each moment is related to those 3.
Yeah, and so each moment you need those 3 to produce the next moment.
Okay. But the other question, if I can now, right? This moment and the next moment, not too much difference, right? And every moment change, right? but if I see a flower that's beautiful, right, I feel very happy. It's a happy feeling. It's come from because I perception when I see the flower.
Yeah.
The eye conscious to by this three contact and have this feeling, right?
Right.
So this happiness I know, but when I continue to see the flower, maybe after 5 minutes I see the flower, but the happiness getting lower, not so strong.
Yeah.
Then lower. Maybe I see after 10 times, it's boring.
Exactly. You got it.
The perception, of course everything is impermanent, right?
Yeah.
It seems like perception not to change so much, but the object is the same, right? Object, of course, the change.
Yeah, it's changing. But what's changing is your experience of the object. Okay, the object, I mean, it's changing moment by moment, and all the causes are changing moment by moment, but they're remaining quite similar, like you said. But then, you know, your happiness then after a while turns into like boredom and get me away from this. So that is what they call the dukkha, or the suffering of change, you know, because our experience of happiness from seeing the flower doesn't come because of the flower. Yeah, it comes because it's a ripening of our karma. Yeah, and as that ripens, then the nature of a samsaric mind is we always want something new and exciting. And that flower becomes really old and boring. So it's our mind that is changing, you know, with respect to it. And probably in particular, not so much the sense consciousness as it is the mental consciousness. You know, because you see the flower, there might be some pleasant feeling on a sensual level, but then the mental consciousness says, what a beautiful flower. I've been looking at gloomy skies and now here's a flower. This is so nice. So that's the mental consciousness that's projecting beauty onto the flower. Then after a while, it's the same old thing. So we, you know, we get bored with it. We stop, you know, projecting that beauty onto it. Yeah? And so this is our samsaric state, isn't it? Anything we do, if you do it long enough, after a while, it's like, isn't it? Yeah? And so that's showing us that samsaric happiness is not ultimately satisfactory, and that when there's the possibility to have the happiness of nirvana that doesn't depend on external things and that doesn't decrease, then it certainly would be advantageous to aim for that. Yeah. Because how many flowers have we seen since beginningless time? A lot. And we've forgotten us. Yeah, the compost heap.
I think it's the same number of tears that we've shed.
Yes, yes. It's all coming to that same point, you know. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of like the mice that, you know, keep pecking on something, you know, and think that this time I'm gonna, you know, I'll get the grain this time, and just one more. It's like, you know, it's like gambling in Vegas. Just one more quarter. Yeah. And so this is like our mind with respect to sense pleasure. It's like this time, I'm sure.
Well, except every once in a while that rat or that mouse does get something.
Yeah, it gets something.
Our hitting lever, we never get.
Yeah, we never get anything. Yeah. Or we get some little something for a short time, you know. We get, you know, 30 cents on our quarter at the one-armed bandit, you know, and that makes us keep putting the quarters in.
And how does that, seeing that that suffering there brings us to the seeing selflessness?
because we start to ask ourselves, why do I keep doing this same thing? You know, it's like walking down the same road and expecting to come out in a different place. Why do I keep doing this? What's the root of all this suffering? And that's where, you know, then the Buddha taught the second noble truth about afflictions and karma, you know, and how karma arises due to afflictions and afflictions due to ignorance. And so ignorance is the root. So therefore,
that's where the feelings come. Because with the feelings comes the craving, and the craving, the grasping.
Yeah, well, everything originates with ignorance. Okay? But you're right, you know, if you start there, from the contact comes the feeling, and then the craving, the grasping, like that. Yeah, we can see that. Yeah, so we start to ask, you know, what's the root of the whole thing? And, you know, and that's when our meditation practice gets very interesting. Because if we only see the unsatisfactory nature, and we don't think about where it comes from and how the cause can be eliminated, then we just get depressed. It's like, oh, I thought this was going to bring me happy. Not again. Oh, I thought this was going to, oh, not again. Oh, not again. You know? And so that's why it's so important, you know, not just the first noble truth, but look at the second one, look at the third one, look at the fourth one, so that we can find our way out of it.
I've been coming up on 20 years since I took refuge with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, my question is, what are the faults in my practice, and what are the things that you're disappointed in? I'll give you 2 minutes and we'll talk.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to do is tell you that I was just thinking the other day about how much you've changed over the years I've known you.
Well, that was the second question.
Okay, so I'm throwing the first question out. I'm answering the second question.
All right.
Yeah.
You can take as long as you want.
Okay. No, but you've really changed a whole lot since you started. Yeah, and I think if you really look at yourself, you'll see how much you've changed. Because especially this retreat, I'm hearing you say things, and I'm going, oh, Scott didn't say that years ago. He didn't think like that years ago. So your mind has really opened and broadened, you know, in a very nice way. And you see things much more clearly. The thing that hasn't changed is your tendency to get too much down on yourself. So that has to change.
Okay, I'll do it.
Go for it.
No more sitting around.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. You'll eventually see it. Give yourself some credit. I think that's one of the problems most people have, is that we don't see ourselves very accurately, and we tend to get very down on ourselves, and we don't give ourselves credit for our good qualities and our skills and our virtuous actions. And, you know, we all are looking at the, you know, totally white wall and seeing the one blue spot on it, you know, instead of, yeah. That's okay, but look at the whole white wall. Yeah. So we need to see everything that's there. We're far too self-critical. And then what sometimes happens is I say that, and then people go, oh, okay, well then I don't have any faults at all. you know, and so I don't need to really notice my faults at all, because every time I notice my faults, then I beat myself up, and I'm not supposed to beat myself up, so I won't notice my faults. No, that doesn't work either. Yeah, it's the thing, we have to see our faults. We see the blue spot, yeah, but we know that we can go and paint it, or we can take the blue off, but we don't have to get all emotional about it, you know. So yeah, we all have faults. So we see our faults. We know the faults can be removed. We go about removing them. And we don't need to get into this, I'm such a horrible person. Nobody else is as bad as I am. You know, because that's just more self-centeredness. You know? Isn't it? You think you're so special that you're the most baddest. Yeah. That you're the worst person in the world. That's a little bit self-centered, I think. Yeah? So we have to look at it. Yes, it's there. Yes, I can do something about it. I'm going to learn the tools. I'm going to do something about it. And let's go on.
I have found some of these meditations so vivid in terms of just going to the heart of things.
Mm-hmm.
So one example is that before Thursday night's teaching, I sat in the library and looked at the tsunami photos, and I put them on a slideshow, and I watched over 180 of them. And it was so many, many, many feelings that I hardly, I didn't know really what to do with myself inside. And whenever I, closed my eyes or thought, I would see this one where there's a baby and the eyelids have gone. So there are just these eyes falling out of the head. And so the next morning, when I went to bed, I'm just seeing all these people, right? And the next morning, I had a little bit of a headache, and I didn't feel nauseous, really throwing up, but I had that kind of sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent that first session just being with those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they took me right back to those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next session, I was trying to focus on mindfulness of the mind, and I was just having, and I thought, what's the matter? And then, back came all the pictures. So I just, started exploring, okay, what are all the threads that are going on here? And does it come to some bottom point?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kept thinking about things like, this is somebody's child, somebody's mother, somebody's this, somebody's that, gone, whole families wiped out, lives ended, all that sort of thing. And then, I was also thinking about the piece around and, I've had all these lives over and over again. You know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of more of that. And I just kept digging, and I just saw so much attachment. I think it brought up the biggest, load of attachment of any of the other pictures I've done, because it triggered so many things, so many, ideas, assumptions, emotions, that it was amazing. And when I finally got to the bottom of that moment anyway, it was just this hunkered down feeling of, I don't want anything to change. You know, because I was trying to imagine, like, my children this could happen to them, this could happen to everybody, this could happen to me. You know, but it was just that hard, tight.
Yeah.
No.
Mm.
I don't want it to change. So it was so interesting and gripping, graphic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, that's attached.
That's what?
Attached. Yeah, and the feeling was so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
So you can see how strong the attachment is. And at the same time, you can see that what the attachment wants is impossible to have.
Yeah, it was like so core, you know, this thing of life and death, that it was so clear.
Mm. And then...
And so that was really
right.
helpful to get
Yeah.
to that hunkered down place and then go. I mean, I didn't laugh, but I almost could have,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just said, okay, well, look around, you know, just, how's that idea serving you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found the meditation on Jeffrey's skeletons
Uh-huh.
was almost like the other end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to see all these endless lives and like little bitty exoskeletons and fish and, you know, everything under the sun and babies and old people and everything in between. And that really did give me this feeling of you've been spending a lot of time without a lot of return. So that was very, very sobering.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wonder if that's a practice that I can't, because it was so sobering, that I can't really use on a regular basis when I want to diddle off, you know, and don't focus on my practice or in some funk or something like that. To sit down and say, okay, so let's go back, let's do this again, see if it looks any different. Because it strikes me as a great motivator.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, because it's like, what do you say? Well, you just look at endless skeletons
Yeah.
since beginningless time. Yeah. So in spite of the difficulty, especially of the tsunami pictures,
Mm-hmm.
these are two meditations that I really, really appreciate.
Mm. Yeah. It brings a certain kind of calmness to the mind. Like, sober is a very good word. It makes the mind very sober. And a certain kind of calmness, because it's like, I can't bother with all this riffraff anymore. Yeah. And so the mind is clearer about what's important and what's not, which actually makes our mind much calmer.
And part of what I noticed in the skeleton meditation is that it's really very simple and so obvious. I mean, like a lot of things I've really been working on, you know, trying to stay soft and gentle and relaxed, but, but working very hard. But this was like kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And had this very powerful impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Good.
thank you.
Can I continue in our last discussion?
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned about the ladies, the skin,
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful assemble.
Yeah.
So then I keep on to watch it, and now I found, oh, that's a little different, or maybe much different. You know, the lady's hair, I found the hair. Is the nature of a phenomena is the keep growth. You know, if you don't cut,
Mm-hmm.
always growth, growth, and the more grease, the more dirt, right? So that's the nature. Yeah. So people cut hair and wash it because it continue growth.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment grows. Even when you cut it right away, and grows right away.
Mm-hmm.
And also always dirt, right? So I found, oh, okay, it's a natural. Of course, when the hair grows, that's the phenomena is the neutral, right? But the mind, we recognize, we perceive in our this karma. We think that's the impure, right? That's dirty,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I say, okay, so maybe that's hair. The hair, that's not beautiful. It's dirty. Even it can't make good hair, but it's only way it's not dirty inside it. Every moment getting more dirty or more, I say, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also the skin, the same. The skin, every moment, I don't know how to say English.
Getting older and more wrinkles.
Older and have, how to say?
Wrinkles.
When your hair, right? Hair have,
Dandruff.
let's say, like easy to,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, how to say? Oh, okay, like that. So every moment, right? Your skin is like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't wash, or will be very grease. If you don't wash 1 month or 2 months, right? How's your face? So that's a natural phenomenon, like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also you see the face, the skin, right? The skin is many hole, tiny hole I made.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You see that? Not beautiful. Yeah. So I say, oh, he looked like beautiful. Just like I see the moon. The moon looks like beautiful, but the moon is not beautiful. Right? Just look like beautiful. When you go to the moon also have many holes.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah. So that's my thing. How come I see this beautiful? Maybe I say, oh, then her skin is not beautiful, and if you want me to kiss her, maybe I thought it or become not beautiful. But she's beautiful. Then I can rejoice because she looks beautiful, because she has good karma to have look like it's beautiful. Then that's my conclusion like that.
So your conclusion is that you can rejoice that she has the good karma to look beautiful, but at the same time see that all of her beauty is in the process of decaying.
Right. I mean, if the skin, right, is body, right?
Yeah.
Body, that's not beautiful, right? Like the moon. The moon is not beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
right? That body, right? But moon looks beautiful. We can
Yeah.
see the moon.
So
beautiful.
deceptive appearances.
The appearance, right?
Yeah. And the appearance doesn't correspond to the reality of what it is. The appearance is deceptive.
Yeah, so the lady appearance still beautiful. But because we have, in our say, we have different karma. You do the good thing, or you offering a flower, so
Mhm.
you can become a beautiful lady, right?
Right, yeah.
So like that.
Yeah.
So I can deny, so she's not beautiful. I say, oh, she's beautiful. But she's beautiful, so it's not attachment in this.
There's not attachment in it?
Yeah, I just rejoice, she's beautiful.
Yeah, if you can just look and say, she's beautiful, and then look at somebody else in the next moment and be just as content.
What do you mean content?
To look at anybody, if you're really there, oh, she's beautiful.
Oh, no.
Then there sure is attachment.
Yeah.
You don't do that?
If
Let me ask the guys in this room. Yeah, so I see your point. Something looks beautiful, But my response is, so what?
Yeah, so I mean, this beautiful. There's no attachment in this one. Yeah, if like moon, right? I see the moon beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, if you can look and say, oh, you know, her face is just like the moon, like rocks, and you know, and it has the pores in it, and it's going to get wrinkles, and if she doesn't wash it, it's greasy and smelly and dirty. But right now it looks nice. That's fine. Yeah. But anything more than that is going into the realm of overestimating.
Oh, okay, maybe keep on thinking about it.
Yeah. He's really thinking about the beautiful women in his meditation.
It's sort of counter to, at least in my view, it's counter to the purpose or motivation of the meditation to
Yeah.
maintain that.
Right. Yeah, because
So you know, with introspective, whatever it is, you know, I might, you know, have that rejoicing, maybe a bit more. But then, you know, okay, what am I doing? What am I meditating on? It's not that. It's some other.
Mhm.
And incidentally, I'm finding this practice to be very beneficial to my approach to the long run.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because, you know, I'll think of, oh my gosh, and then I'll go to the outlines. There it is. And then so, you know, my long run has got real stale.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And so this is so powerful that I'm, you know, very grateful to have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very good. And I think having the Lamrim foundation makes these meditations more powerful
Really.
and clearer, you know. You had a...
I was going to go back to what Susan was sharing because I had quite a different experience with the body meditations. I quite liked them, and I was quite inspired to practice for death. So before sleeping, I started to visualize the Tibetan death process, right? The elements disintegrating, and then I would imagine my body bloated, eaten by maggots, and surprisingly, I would sleep very well. And it helped. And I started to actually remember my dreams quite clearly. I don't sleep as deep, and I sleep less. So if I wake up feeling very clear-minded, and I remember my dreams very clearly. And it was so strange because, of course, I dream about attachment, and it's like the Perry and Ruby show. Really long. But I would wake up. We go on long dates, and in the dream, I would think Venerable children will not be happy, but I'm still on the date. It's so clear. Then I wake up, and then I'm like, okay, no. And then I would check my feelings and be like, okay, it was a dream. And it was so weird that I would sit in meditation, and sometimes those memories come back. And it's like, what's the difference between the memory and the dream? And I realized, you know, all this time I spent with this person thinking all that was real, now it's like a dream. So that was like, huh? And so just looking at how you spend so much time on things that don't exist. I mean, the way they appear to. I spent one whole day thinking about the future, all these things I'm going to do, and like, after that I was like, that's not very interesting. And then a long time on this Perry and Ruby show, like, so it was weird. So actually, that helped my mind to focus on the breath a lot better. Yeah. But what I found much more difficult is just giving up mental happiness. Like little pieces will come in, or sometimes the meditation goes well and I'm like, yes. And of course the next moment's like, it's a mental feeling, it's gonna go away, but I keep falling for it, like, how many times do you want to do this? I'm so tired. So that's where I am right now. Yeah, but I think that whole thing about, you know,
the happiness we have, the sense pleasure happiness, the worldly happiness we have, in the next moment becomes like last night's dream. You know, because it's not here now. Is it? You know, we have scrapbooks, we have, you know, our little slideshows, we have photos galore, yeah, and none of it exists right now. And yet, you know, when we were doing those things, it felt so real and so incredibly important. And I've got to get this, and this is the meaning of it all. And then the very next moment, gone. Yeah? So that's the nature of worldly happiness, you know? And when the more attached we are to worldly happiness, then the more affliction arises in our mind when we're trying to get it, and the more negative karma we create, and the more time we waste. Yeah.
So then how does it address the true path? Because I haven't got to that part.
Because again, you say, why, you know, I'm putting all this energy into something that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. So what is meaningful? Yeah, and asking ourselves, what is meaningful? Is taking one rebirth after another in samsara, is it meaningful? Or do I need to get out? And what about other beings who are, again, one rebirth after another? What about helping them get out? So what's really important here? Is it my own little happiness and I just spend my time running around, lining up my duckies so that I can have happiness? Or is there something more meaningful that I should put my energy into?
Because then also those things, I mean, following the path, those things also, like the next time, are just like a dream, but
but they lead to something.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, they're leading you somewhere. And also, because when you practice the true path, you're training your mind in a way of thinking that is in accord with reality. Yeah, when you're falling for the appearances, yeah, whether it's this beautiful woman with her hair that then falls in your soup, yeah, or whatever, when you're looking at superficial appearances and chasing them, there's no way to wind up with anything that's going to sustain you in the long run.
That's the way the form is empty. Emptiness is formed because you work through form to develop that empty mind, right? Because the purpose is to see that emptiness, right? It's the impermanent suffering of selfness and empty, right? That's what we're trying to see.
Yeah.
With this, right?
Yeah, but you have to be also very clear what things are empty of. Okay?
Like what do you mean?
Well, they're empty of inherent existence. It's not, you know, there's, you know, the refrigerator's empty of food. It's not that kind of emptiness, okay? So you have to really understand what things are empty of.
So they're like one thing, no, kind of selfless and they're kind of pointing to
Selflessness and emptiness are the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also have a reaction to this, more than to the autopsy, which is, interestingly also I reacted with a kind of attachment, so that I started to think more about how I'm attached to my body and how I'm attached to others' body, and or to possess others, kind of, you know, like we are doing it with relationships actually. So I was focusing on that part. And one thing you said in one teaching, I can't remember if it was if it has been the Tantra teaching or here, you said something like that can we have a sexual relationship without hurting somebody? And you said something, you don't think it's possible, and that's why you
For ordinary beings.
Yeah, and it made me really think about, oh yes, we are hurting each other through having sexual relationships, and we all have, I mean, when we are not celibate. And how, I mean, it seems like we are nice to each other. Yeah. But actually, what you mean, I think it's that we trigger this person's attachment, trigger this person to stay in samsara, so our egoistic attachment, craving, and unsatisfactory actually with ourselves. And I also was thinking about one statement Alan Wallace was giving in his book by the Buddha. He said, if we truly love ourselves, we can't hurt anybody.
We can't hurt anybody.
And it was something really good to think about, I think. And the meditation about the body, what the body is, not to be attached to the body, is really helpful to get, I think, deeper into what we really want and what's really beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see how much we look to our body as the source of happiness. But how much do we question, why do I have a body to start with? And what's the nature of this body? And when I have this body, what else comes along with having a body like this? Yeah. Usually people don't ask these kinds of questions, you know. It's just, well, I have a body, so here it is. How can I have pleasure? Yeah. But like, well, how come I have this body? And by getting this kind, you know, what's the nature of this body, you know? Old, sick, dying. You know, what else, what comes along with having this body? Yeah, and how did I get it? And, you know, what's going to happen when I have to separate from it? Because it's not like, you know, death comes when, you know, finally I'm not attached to my body, then, you know, I can have this, we create this very blissful, you know, serene death scene. And, you know, when we're really attached to our body and we have to separate from it, or attached to our ego identity, or attached to our loved ones, and we have to separate, then what happens, you know? Because we go on alone. We don't take this body, we don't take our relatives and our friends. Yeah? So we come to see then really what attachment does to us, and the disadvantages of attachment, and how attachment is based on a superficial appearance that is not real. Yeah, like this beautiful woman who the next moment is the tsunami victim. Yeah, so what is it we're clinging to? And then again, you know, just the question, what is important in life? What kind of happiness am I aiming for? Yeah, what kind of happiness is there? Because lots of times we don't even, you know, when we think of happiness, as far as we get is chocolate cake or maybe sex. And that, you know, that's the best happiness we can ever imagine. But then, wait a minute, aren't there other kinds of happiness? Aren't there other kinds of fulfillment? Isn't there another kind of satisfaction that we can experience? And if so, then how do we create the causes for that? So I think that's a lot what this kind of meditation is getting us to look at, like you said. Let me just say one thing about what you said. Lama Yeshe once said, when talking, he said, when you people say, I love you, what it really means is, I want to use you. Yeah. So, you know, we need to learn what love really means, and then how to cultivate real love in our hearts. Because we can cultivate it, you know, and it's a lot more satisfactory than using people.
Not only satisfactory, it's also more worthwhile for the whole for our survival kind of. I mean, it brings peace, it brings total happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was listening to one of your talks, and you were talking about no self, and then you ran into a friend who was a Buddhist, and he was talking about he just got married. I don't even remember it, and he was saying they were soulmates and they had spent many lifetimes together.
Oh, yes.
You felt that they would live in future lifetimes.
Uh-huh.
And then it dawned on me, I was saying, okay, it's a mental continuum, and you were saying it sounds like a permanent self to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I sat and meditated on that a little bit, and then I started thinking about Yangtze, Dogo Kensei, and the idea of tuples or reincarnation. In that sense, I was saying, okay, how does this all fit? So then in my mind, it doesn't take much. I get a little confused about all these ideas.
Yeah.
So maybe you could kind of explain what is, you have these masters that come back.
Yeah, but they're not exactly the same people.
They're not.
No. See, this is one of our problems when we approach the whole Tibet, and Tibetans have this problem too. Sentient beings have this problem when they approach the whole Tulku system, is we see the next rebirth and we think it's exactly the same person. Yeah, it's not the same person. First of all, if the person was George in this life and Meredith in the next life, George no longer exists. It is now Meredith, So there's a continuity between them. But George's aggregates and of that life and Meredith's aggregates of the next life are different aggregates, Like I said, there's a continuity, but the aggregates are different. The name of the person is different. Yeah. So when people, I've seen it so often when a great master dies and then, they find the child and people go and meet the child. Then as soon as they meet the child, everybody's going, did he recognize you? Did he recognize you? Do you think it's really the same one? Does he have the same habits of the same one? And it's like, to me, that all is ridiculous. First of all, who cares if he recognizes me? I mean, that thing is, he recognized me. Did he recognize you? Oh, too bad. This is the way, this is grasping at true existence. You think the same person dies and the same person is reborn, that's grasping at an inherently existent self. Yeah? And you can see, like even with the Dalai Lamas, the different Dalai Lamas, their personalities are so different. Very different, So you can't think that there's some fixed personality that then, checks out of this body and checks into the next one, but doesn't change in the meantime. Not like that. Okay.
And that's what you were saying on one level, and then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, there's two cults of this.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying with my friend when he said, oh, we must have been together in previous lives and been soulmates in previous lives. I was going, wait a minute, I thought you're a Buddhist. If you're a Buddhist, you don't believe in this kind of stuff. Yeah? Because it isn't some concrete person like that. Okay. How's everybody else?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
I can't tell you what kind of shampoo she uses.
All right. So when I feel painful, right?
Uh-huh.
I think, okay, that kind of so pain. The pain, for example, now I pain. The 3 minutes ago is pain, it's gone. No pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it will later continue pain. But later, the future haven't come yet.
Right.
Past is past.
Right.
Future not come yet.
Right.
But when you say, now I pain, when I say now already be past.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So how come I still feel pain? Right.
This is the question.
Just only a very one moment. And I think if this continue, this moment, right, maybe only 1 second. Right? This continue, maybe 1 second you can divide it, maybe 1 million parts.
Right.
Only 1 million parts, only 1 moment.
Yeah.
How come very tiny moment pain? But I can feel it's like very long. You know, like that.
This is very good. This is, yeah. Keep looking at that. Keep looking at that. That's
So,
very good.
So now,
No, this is very good in your meditation to really go deep and look at this kind of stuff. You know, really look seriously at it. Yeah, very good.
I have the other question. Yeah, I don't know how come the Arhat know the feeling of happy.
How come arhats have a feeling of happiness, but it's not due to it isn't samsaric happiness. Okay? There's different kinds of happiness. Okay? So there's samsaric happiness that comes from our senses. Yeah? And then there's the happiness that comes from practicing the path. And then there's the happiness that comes from attaining the result. So those kinds of happinesses are different.
I'm thinking, just like, the feeling, right? Those three conditions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one condition is consciousness, right?
Yeah, the
So,
preceding moment of consciousness.
Yeah, is Arhat is consciousness, our original people, our consciousness just is feedback or like a database, right? A database have the feeling, the good feeling, or bad happy feeling, or not happy feeling, because we have that. But in the Arhat, everything, because in his mind, everything is the emptiness. So when these three conditions together, his consciousness to look for inside, right? To see his imprint, right? So it's his imprint. Before he become Arhat, he also have happiness like that. But since he become Arhat, so his imprint changed. Imprint like a emptiness like there. So the consciousness, so so when then respond, respond like that.
Yeah. So an Arhat, when they're looking at things with their senses, then they still have those same three conditions. Yeah. So a feeling of pleasure may arise in the mind, but the Arhat doesn't go to craving and attachment when they experience pleasure. That's what the difference is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and similarly, they experience pain, and their mind doesn't go to aversion and anger and resentment when they experience it. Yeah. So you really learn to separate what the feeling is from our usual reaction to the feeling. Okay?
Going back to this piece that Ryan brought up about looking at the tinier and tinier and tinier moment. So I actually have two questions, but I'm not sure, maybe it loops into one. So if I'm looking at sensory things.
If you're looking at what things? Sensory things.
Sensory.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like, just take the breath. I feel like I can get in there tinier and tinier, too tinier, okay? I also have the feeling there's more tiny, but I can't get there. And then if it's a thought, so these are really linked, because it comes down to the same question. If I'm looking at a feeling, I find it harder to look at a smaller and smaller moment within that feeling, but I have this idea that it must be there. So my question is there anything to do with that, or do I just keep?
Yeah. They say that as you develop a clearer concentration, and your concentration becomes more single-pointed and deeper, that then you can actually experience smaller and smaller moments of these different sensations or these different perceptions. You know, at the beginning, kind of for us, we're more mentally thinking about it, and even that is something quite new for us, to try and just sit there and experience, you know, because we do it first, you know, oh yeah, there must be smaller bits. Let's see if I can experience the smaller bits. Yeah. But then to actually do that, and you know, that's how our concentration increases. So actually being able to do that entails increasing our concentration.
And so there's no like
shortcut?
I didn't want to use the word trick. But
not one that I know of.
Coming to mind.
Not one that I know of. Okay.
So just keep going to that spot.
Just keep looking, and like, can I distinguish one moment from the other, and can I keep dividing them, and so on. Yeah.
And then the same with the feeling. It's like, well, just go to wherever my edge is, and then just sit there and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, you know, kind of, and it is an interesting question, because it is, well, where exactly is that feeling? You know, because it's like, okay, I felt something, but the moment you feel something, it's already non-existent. It's in the past. It's become a past phenomena. Yeah, and then there's something else, but then as soon as you identify that, that's also gone. And so it really leads you into meditating on subtle impermanence.
Well, sometimes I think I take a little curve here, and then I start thinking, well, and look at how your mind proliferates to maintain that particular feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, pain's a great example.
Yeah. Well, and then you can see, well, how does it work that my mind maintains that feeling? And then you see how much conception plays a role, because you start to think, you give it the word pain, and you think of it as one thing, and then, you know, it starts to appear to you as one solid thing, and you relate to it as one solid thing, and the whole thing boomerangs back and forth as you get more, you know, irritated by the pain and more upset by the pain. Huh?
I mean, and I watch how the story builds.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Here was this little prick, and then...
Yes. And pretty soon, you know, you're not really feeling that little pain in your body anymore. Your mind is completely exploding with, I'm going to be paralyzed for life. Yeah. And this is the most awful thing that's ever going to happen, and nobody understands how suffering this is, and, you know. And I've been sick my whole life, and nobody's ever appreciated how sick I always am, and we're often...
You probably never read Alan Wallace, who says it's okay to lie on the floor.
Yeah, why won't they let me lie on the floor in this place anyway, you know? And then we're off. But, you know, when I lie on the floor, I want to be comfortable. So I want to bring, you know, a mattress into the meditation hall. I wonder if I can talk him into letting me lie down. Can I talk him into letting me bring in a mattress? And then am I going to lie on my back? Am I going to lie on my side? And we're often proliferating, aren't we?
He's pretty specific.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah? So, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, what Brian said about, you really look at the pain, you step back, and instead of, you know, starting the conceptualize and the reaction to the pain, you know, you just step back and you watch, and then you begin to see, well, wait a minute, it hurts here, but then it's here, and it's here. Then, no, it tingles, but then the next moment, no, it feels a little bit different. And then, you know, and you try and actually mentally draw a line around the pain.
And then it goes away.
Yeah, I don't see the moment of, you know, dissecting it down to, 64 parts of it. But I feel happy if I can see the beginning and the end. Those two parts. I'm happy if I can.
Yeah, that's great.
And really, the beginning is so far away that, usually I don't see that. But the end is a little bit closer. And that's, so
Yeah.
forget the zillions of moments. If I can just see one of them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, to get to the zillions, you have to start with,
Yeah.
the grosser
I'm
things.
happy with that.
Yeah.
It's
Good.
taken me 20 years, but yeah.
Good. Okay. Anything else? People doing okay? You doing okay in your meditations?
I have a lot of restless. All of a sudden, this restlessness, it's like a sumo wrestler that appears. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not moving. I'm not going to move. Next thing I know, I move. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to move.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I move?
Yeah.
What happened? So I'm not even close to little seconds. I'm like, all of a sudden I moved.
Yeah, so it's the thing of, maintaining our attention on something so that we can understand what we're doing.
And it's like a sumo wrestler. It's standing there and saying, okay, no, you're going to move. And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to move. It's like this battle at times. And then I get tired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And meditation on body, feeling and mind is more in the section of shamatha, and the meditation on the phenomena more in the section of vipassana, or can't
No, they all, sometimes you can develop shamatha using, let's say, the meditation on the internal organs or so on. But when you're doing it as a practice of mindfulness, mindfulness is combined with wisdom. So you're really trying to understand what the things are, not just developing concentration on a fixed object, on the same object. Although that can come, but you're actually trying to develop understanding. Yeah. So it's more on the side of vipassana.
And Ajahn Anand, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
he mentioned once that when you do this meditation on body, feeling, mind, then there come those points when you get a realization that there's no self, and then you function more in a natural, he says something like, there appears a natural functioning of your body, feelings, and mind. What means he's referring to that you naturally develop loving kindness, that you naturally develop the habit of helping others, teaching and supporting others, kind of opposite from the self-occupied behavior, where you not have the natural force to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was questioning myself, is it really an outcome of it that you naturally develop a kind of goodness?
Oh, I think you have to you have to take it a step further, because just observing your own bodily functions leads to one conclusion. But to develop a sense of compassion for others, you have to go beyond that and have further understandings.
Do you have any thoughts about observing thoughts? Because whenever I sit down, I say, okay, I'm going to focus on the space in my mind, and I'm going to observe what's coming up. Whenever I do that, nothing comes. But as soon as I take my concentration off the present moment mind, then, I had that thought 5 seconds ago. I had that thought 5 seconds ago. And it becomes this memory lag type thing versus seeing the thoughts arise, abide, and pass. Any thoughts about that?
That's kind of the way it happens, isn't it? Yeah. It's.
But is there a way to stop obliterating the thoughts? I guess what I'm saying is that when I consciously try to do it,
when you're
it feels like I'm not having any
Yeah, but if you look closely, there's often the thoughts like, I'm not having any thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a thought, isn't it?
Then I just thought that, and I just thought that.
Yeah, yeah, and then you'll see the things. Yeah, but when you're trying to look at, okay, what's the moment when the thought arises, then it becomes much more difficult because you're so much focused on looking for the moment the thought arises that it's harder for a thought to arise.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you're not so looking for it, yeah, then it's there, and then you go, oh yeah, it just arose.
Can you say that again?
When you're looking for the moment that the thought is arising, you're so focused on looking for that moment that it's hard to find a thought arising. Or there's thoughts arising, like how come I'm not having a thought? Yeah, or where's the beginning of this thought? Or when is a thought going to come? But you're not noticing those thoughts. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, but it was brought up by that, and I've been thinking about quite a bit. I haven't been doing the same retreat as everybody, but I've spent a lot of time in mindfulness of the body, and I found for myself that like one of the very present things is a tension in the body that's pretty much always there. I mean, I don't always notice it. In fact, I can go long periods of times without noticing it. But it's very much, if I look carefully, it's always there, and it's very, very closely related to like conceptual thought. Like the more I'm thinking, the tighter it gets. And the tighter it gets, the more there's pain. And sometimes that turns into like migraine headaches or whatever, tension headaches or something like that. But I also find that as I release and let go of tight conceptuality, there's actually a sense of relaxation. And for me, I actually have a very physical sense in my head of actually like as though there's pressure that is being released. And it's very, I found when I look closely, it's very, very strongly correlated with the thoughts. Like it is one for one, that the more conceptuality, the more tightness I have. The more I let go of conceptuality, the less tightness I have. The trick, of course, is to let go of conceptuality while holding awareness, rather than what I usually do, which is just crashing and end up like falling asleep, going to that extreme.
Yeah.
But I find that it's so closely related, and I actually have ended up over time focusing a lot on that sense, the physical sense of feeling pleasant, the difference between the pain of tightness and the pleasantness of release physically in my head. That and sort of watching that actually has helped me to catch the thoughts.
You mean tightness in your head, or
literally,
physical tightness in your head?
Tightness.
What about the rest of your body?
That's more like when that's usually this is happening when I'm more relaxed and I'm spending time actually analyzing. So there might be tension in my body, but it's usually when there is already less tension going on physically, because I'm somewhat relaxed and I'm somewhat paying attention to what I'm doing. So, you know, the physical tension isn't necessarily present, but omnipresent is this tension in my head.
A physical tension in your head.
Yeah. And physical and pain. And it is closely related to the more concept, the more sort of stewing, spinning around something, or the longer I go thinking like without relaxing and just like letting myself be aware rather than, you know, thinking about awareness, the more physical pain there actually is. It's actually a physical sense of pain. And so I don't, so then I was trying to, you know, because I didn't, I'm not so much involved in the retreat, and I don't I haven't been following the teachings as closely and analyzing as closely. It's like I start looking at like, well, what am I actually doing? It seems as though I'm like, there's definitely a sense of feeling that I'm being aware of, because it's tightness and loose, the tightness and pain and a sense of pleasure as that pain releases when I let go of like obsessiveness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of physical pleasure in my head that's, it feels pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So there's awareness of feeling, but then it's also, in a sense, it's awareness of it's guiding me towards my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and pointing at my
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
these concepts that are very hard,
Yeah.
tight. And so
Yep.
then I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm, am I doing a feeling meditation, or am I doing a concept, a phenomenon, or is it my body? Is it like my body-mind phenomena, or like what,
Yeah.
is
No,
it
just,
feeling
yeah.
Am I even doing the same meditation, or am I way off of
Yeah.
some other direction? I mean, I know I find it helpful.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. And it's fine. I think it's more related to feelings. But what try to do is see what kind of thoughts you're thinking when you have these certain physical sensations. And kind of not only what object are you thinking about, but is it a thought of anger? Is it a thought of dissatisfaction? What kind of thought is it?
It's very clear that that there's a very different texture to the thoughts.
Yeah.
The angry thoughts are very, very, they tighten up very quickly.
Yep.
Physically, that comes very quickly. Whereas I can contemplate something more gentle, something like the positive qualities of a good person that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Or even, like compassion, contemplating someone suffering. I can do that, and the tightness isn't so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still closely related, but it's a very different texture
Mm-hmm.
of feeling.
Yeah.
Very different.
Right. Right. So this is a good way that you can start to see how your body and mind relate to each other. And maybe you can do it two ways. By noticing the feeling, then say, okay, what thought is going on? And that will bring you to understand deeper layers of thoughts, because often there's thoughts in our mind that we're not aware we're having. But sometimes when you can catch the accompanying physical sensation, then that can kind of say, okay, what's the mirror? What's the thought? And then other times when you're aware of what you're thinking, then check in with your body and okay, what's the feeling in my body when I have this kind of thought? And it gets very, very interesting, and it becomes a really good way to become more aware of what kind of habitual thoughts you have and what the effect of those thoughts are.
Yeah, it's very, very
Yeah.
I noticed that so much of who I am is just me telling myself that I'm this person. Repeating stories just for years and years and years. Just repeating this story of who I am, just so that I can keep believing it.
Yep.
And when I start looking and start noticing the thoughts as they're arising, it's oh, this is a familiar one, and this is one I've seen that before. Why does it keep coming up? It just keeps coming again and again.
Yeah.
It becomes extremely suddenly meditation becomes so interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. 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 Because you do start to see the kind of thoughts we have and how by our thoughts are creating our reality. And when we are not aware of what we're thinking, and when we don't try and guide our minds towards more realistic and beneficial thoughts, how our mind just takes and runs down the same old road again.
It's afraid to not do that.
Yeah.
It's just surrounded by fear, saying, I've got to keep this going.
Yes.
Got to.
Yes, this is who I am. If I'm not this, who am I? Well, I better be this, even though it's painful and it stinks, but I know who I am. And it's all well, wait a minute. Can't I just relax?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've experimented with trying to relax too, and that doesn't seem to help either. But
Yeah.
I realized that as the Buddha taught, it's being aware.
Yeah.
Being aware that then relaxation can come and all those different good things.
Right.
can come.
And if fear comes, then just, take refuge. Yeah, when fear comes, then just say, I'm trusting. I'm going to trust the Buddha's instructions. Yeah. I'm going to trust that this, you know, it's only thoughts. That's all it is. It's only thoughts. It's not going to kill me, you know. And you just kind of mentally ask for the Buddha's inspiration and protection.